little jazzy.
I'm co-creator of all I see. I can make peace, joy, and harmony. God's love and power now flow through me. All we create is divine.
I'm co-creator through God's eyes I see. Together we set things all right. So let there be joy, let there be love, let there be light in this world tonight. I'm co-creator of all I see, a source of light. I'm co-creator of all I see. This world is ours. Come on, y'all. I'm co-creator of all I see. I can make peace, joy, and harmony. God's love and power now flow through me, and all we create is divine. I'm co-creator through God's eyes I see. Together we set things all right. So let there be joy, let there be light, let there be love in this world tonight. I'm co-creator of all I see, source of light. I'm co-creator of all I see. This world is ours. I believe in miracles.
Let there be light.
I believe in love.
Let there be love.
I believe in light.
Let there be light.
I believe in love.
Let there be love.
I believe in miracles.
For our new home.
Can you believe it too?
Oh, yes, I do.
Our new home is seeking us.
And we receive.
Miracles do come true.
And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. And so it is.
But so I read this thing by Mark Nepo just last night, and I thought it was important because I think it speaks to where we are right now. He said that unity is happening all the time. It is a reality. We are one. Unity is a reality. We share one life. But community makes it visible and known. And so when we are in community, we get to feel and care for each other, and we get to experience what happens to one happens to all, and what's universally true becomes individually manifest. So I'm so grateful for this community. I'm really grateful for all of you and the way that that shows up. I've got so much stuff here. So I'm going to give this to my house manager. And we have a house manager. We still have a house manager. It's so cool. It's like, I feel like I'm moving. And we have coffee. We have a bookstore. It's small but mighty. We have a registration table with similar faces behind it. It doesn't look anything like the other one, but it's so cool. So I just want you to walk around afterwards if you haven't already done so, and just see where things are and get familiar with this place, because we'll be here for a little bit. I'm not sure how long, but we'll be here, and it's good to feel this way. So since we are here at the Mountaineers, I thought it would be really great. I must have been channeling somebody like Peter Hanna, but I thought it would be really great for us to break out into a version of "Climb Every Mountain," something like that. Have it be our theme song, and then see who could, scurry up those walls over there. But we're not going to do that. didn't seem really safe or a good thing to do. But since we are here at the Mountaineers, I wanted to go back to something that Mark Anthony Lord mentioned when he was here last. And he said that us leaving one property and going to another property and yet not knowing exactly where that property is or how long it will take to get there is a lot like the story in the Bible of the children of Israel, or the Israel tribes, leaving Egypt, leaving captivity. They were slaves, leaving that and going to a place that they had been promised that would be theirs, where they would actually be landowners. So I know some of you aren't familiar with the Bible. It's a big, thick book, and it's usually black. And people carry it around sometimes and quote from it, including me. I quote from it along with other books. But those of you that are not as totally familiar with the story, I sort of did the Reader's Digest version. A group of people had, according to the story, lived in Egypt for 300 years, become slaves, and they didn't have a lot of freedom in any way, shape, or form. Physically, mentally, spiritually, they couldn't worship the way they wanted. It was really confining and with heavy burdens. They had been promised that they would go back to a place that God had given them, that they weren't there yet. And Moses comes along and says, set my children free, and then it's all big drama, and they make movies out of it and stuff. But cut to the chase, they leave Egypt. Now, I've been in Egypt, and I've been in the Sinai, and across the Sinai is Israel. It's not that far. It would not take 40 years. Even walking with children. No, come on. I said, come on. I said, no, don't you sit down one more time. I said, come on. So even walking with children would not take 40 years. It was symbolic. 40 means a solid time. It means a solid space of time where something can shift so it becomes a foundation for something new. It's the time it takes to go from one place in consciousness, slavery, to a new place in consciousness, ownership. They weren't just going to be free, they were going to be the owners, the landholders. Now that's huge. Now 40 shows up in a lot of religions. Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree for 40 days to shift consciousness from his identity as a prince, his identity as a human, his identity with suffering, his identity with the human condition, to his identity of pure consciousness. It doesn't happen right away. And I think people in ancient times could understand that, but we want it quick. We want fast. We want an affirmation. Can't you just give me an affirmation? What's an affirmation? How do I do this? It's not a do, it's a shift. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days. He had to go from his belief that he was the son of a carpenter and his wife to he was the place where God showed up. That doesn't happen overnight. There's a solid space of time for the development of consciousness. Because if we don't develop consciousness, we'll go from this condition in this setting to the same condition in another setting. They would have gone into a land that they'd heard about and they would have ended up as slaves again because they hadn't shifted. In fact, actually, if we look at the metaphor of the story, it's so powerful because the Spirit, God, says to the people in the Sinai, you're not going to be able to go there until all the elders have died off. What that meant is all those old thoughts, all those old identities, all the ways that you have said that you are, that has to go so you can go there. So this is our Sinai. because we left a place that was wonderful and beautiful, but until we sold it, we had a lot of debt. So we were a church that had its eye on mortgage instead of ministry. And so we tried to do ministry inside that mortgage. But we became very campus-centric because the mortgage was a gravity that kept us there. We've left that. And we're traveling here. We're like, this is where we'll set up tent on Sundays. And we're going to set up a tent for offices in the Northgate area during the week. And we're going to have a tent that teaches practitioners in the Finney Ridge area on Mondays. We're going to have all these tents because we're traveling until we get the consciousness and live that consciousness and embody the consciousness that we are a community of people who are not campus-centric, but ministry-centric, and that we are no longer expecting to be burdened by debt. We're expecting to be financially wealthy all the time. Then the place will show up. Because here's the deal. We've seen places. People want to sell us things. But it would have taken all of our revenue, all of the money in the bank, and then some. And still not quite be right, because it would have taken everything, so we wouldn't have been able to invest in new ministries, invest in new technology, invest in new ways of doing things, and spreading out. So guess what? Spirit is spreading us out. So we get the idea of what it feels like to be ministry-centric and not campus-centric. This is our Sinai. And it's got mountains like the Sinai. It's a very nice Sinai. Don't you think it's a pretty nice Sinai? I think it's great. So, what had to happen for the Israelites to move through the Sinai also is that they had to quit grumbling. They grumbled. Just read the book. Not gossiping here, I'm just speaking truth. They had to grumble, and what happened when they stopped grumbling is they kept getting wonderful downloads. If you look at the way the Western civilization has been created by our Christian Judeo-Christian tradition, a lot of that happened in the Sinai. I expect this to not be a Pharaoh. Is that Pharaoh meaning, what's the word I want to use? Fallow. This is not a fallow time. This is going to be a very rich time. A lot of good things are going to come out of it and help us be the kind of people that will have the kind of place that we want to have and create the kind of ministry we want to have in Seattle, in Puget Sound, in the world. Why not world? Let's just do world. So, since we're not singing Climb Every Mountain, so I thought I would share with you one of my favorite spiritual practices called the mountain pose. I thought I got it from Jack Kornfield. Here's the book. It's about 25 years old, The Path with Heart, Jack Kornfield. Google it, get on Amazon, buy it. It serves me and serves me and serves me. It's rich, 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 rich. And I was sure that I got the mountain pose from this book. Looked all the way through it this weekend. Cannot find the mountain pose. I think I made it up. In fact, someone was leaving after first service, and she says, I teach mindfulness, and I'm a student of Jack Kornfield, and I've never heard of the mountain pose, so I may have made it up. And she's going to go do a retreat with him in a couple of weeks. I said, well, share it with him. He might like it. You just share the mountain pose. I think you should. So I'm going to share with you the mountain pose. Because it is a way, not the way, but a way to find your peaceful center in the midst of stuff happening. Because stuff will always happen. Stuff just does happen. It happens to spiritual people. It happens to non-spiritual people. Stuff just happens. And I reactivated this practice in 2016 because 2016 was the year of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff happened in 2016. A lot of personal things were happening. Just thing after thing after thing personally. One of the worst things that happened was me leading a retreat to Peru, arriving a day early, and my husband and I losing all of our money, all of our ID, and all of our credit cards, and and this is the worst, passport. And I lost my makeup, that's true. It was horrible. It was worse than I thought. Well, then there it is. So there was that. There was, on a professional level, we had a bank that will go unnamed saying that they did not want to renew our balloon payment, even though we had over, almost $2 million in the bank. They didn't want to renew our loan payment. So we were going to have to refinance or sell, and we decided to sell, and there's all the things, can we sell fast enough? I mean, it's just blah, blah. How many of you have had those things? Like the boom, the boom, the boom, the boom. And then there's always the year when it's the boom, 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 boom. That was that year. My blood pressure went up. I had anxiety attacks, and there were times that I could not think. Someone would ask me a question, I'd go, inside, I'd be thinking, I know it's gonna happen. Sometimes it did. It was not a good year. Luckily, I have a toolbox full of spiritual practices. The issue is not having the toolbox. The issue is pulling the tools out. It doesn't matter what you know. Ernest Holmes says it doesn't matter what you know, because he said metaphysicians know a lot, they just don't use it much. So it's not what I knew, it's what was I going to use. So there was a number of things I started to use, and out of that, of what I started to do to get me to a place of sanity, and also to a place of healing, and then to a place of totally new conditions. First the calm, then the healing, then the new conditions. Too many people want the new conditions, then I'll be calm. Well, go ahead, try that, see how it works. Let me know. But it's not what we teach. Because otherwise, we're always conditioned by conditioning, and that means we're a slave to conditions. We are the people in Egypt if we have to have conditions just so we can be calm. So I had to pull out my toolbox, and one of the things I used was the mountain pose. The mountain pose cannot be used on the run. It's not a fast thing. And there's a lot of things I do on the run. There's a lot of things I can do in my car. There's affirmations I can tell myself. I can catch myself thinking those things. I can turn them around. I can do it in line. I can do it in my car. I can do it while I'm talking to you. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. You know, I have a poker face. You don't know what I'm thinking. But this is not one of those. This is something you have to hurt enough that you are willing to give this time and a place. It's not something you do while everybody else in the room is watching TV, unless you're really good at it. So you need time and place to practice, and this is the mountain pose. So all you need, though, I know this, it's not, I'm not asking you to give up a day, but I'm asking you, the time is 10 minutes a day. Starting 10 minutes a day, and you all have 10 minutes. Give up Netflix for a little while. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And then what you do is you need to have a place that you can sit. It's easiest to practice it by yourself. But when I say sit, I don't mean lounge. People say, I fall asleep when I meditate. That's because you're lounging. Meditation is not about getting calm and relaxed. It's about becoming awake. Buddha was not relaxed, it was awake. Jesus was not, maybe you'll get healed. He was awake. Those people that we admire spiritually were awake. Meditation is for the purpose of waking up. So find a place that you can be awake in, where you're not trying to avoid something. This is your space. 10 minutes. You might have to get up really early before the family, or wait for them to go to sleep, or go out into the yard, or in your car. If you're at work, go into the stall. What stall? Anyway. But find your place, set the time, and then as Jack Kornfield does say, but he doesn't say it this way, but he says you take a seat and you do it on purpose. You're sitting purposefully. You're not just letting the earth support you. You are seated as though you were the center of the universe, because you are. I mean, don't let the ego hear this. This is just for the higher self of you. You are the center of the universe. Why? Because Meister Eckhart, the great Christian mystic, said, God is that which is centered everywhere and circumference is nowhere. So where there is consciousness, there is a center of divine intelligence and wisdom. So when you are awake, you are a center of divine intelligence and wisdom. You're the center. And so if you are the center of divine intelligence and wisdom, treat it with a little respect. Sit on purpose. And then, this help was so helpful, because I'll tell you, there was stuff swirling. So whirling. Personally and professionally. So, I did the mountain pose. It's easier. Second, let's make sure, well, I can do this. It's easier, if you've got your legs in the right position, and then you got to do the other one, but still. You sit in a solid way. You're sitting in a solid way. And if you're in a chair, you can either cross your legs and bring them up, or you can just sit with your hands as though you become a solid piece of consciousness. And then you are the mountain. And you become whatever mountain appeals to you. If it is Mount Rainier, you are Rainier. I would probably be Pilchuck. It's right out my back door. Pilchuck, Mount Hood, Mount Baker. You sit as though you are the mountain. Now, what's going to happen is stuff happens. It's cool. Stuff happens around mountains, too. A thought goes by. There's a bird. Yeah, it's a big thought. Big bird. Big bird. Then your body starts to I want to move. Okay, critters on the mountain. It's just a critter on the mountain. And then people are going to be chattering at you, like they might walk through the room or something like that. Tourists, just tourists. It's only a tourist. And then you are the place where stuff happens, but you don't. Everything's on the outside, but you're not moved. The mountain's not moved by what people are, putting up and down, their cleats up and down the hill. It's not moved. The ice comes, the ice goes, but the mountain is there. It's not moved. And so you get this consciousness that I'm not moved. This stuff does not affect me. I am not controlled by this. This is not me. And you'll start to find, just as there is a core of heat in the middle of Mount Rainier, you'll start to find your core. You'll start to find that thing that is alive in you, your essence. And you'll start to breathe into that. You'll notice that your breath will shift, your pulse will go down, You'll start to, you're not going asleep. You're actually becoming incredibly alive and present. And from that place, you just keep your attention on that for 10 minutes, and thoughts will come and go. But you'll find a stillness, a heat, that's not touched by the things that are coming and going. And then when you get up, you'll take that with you, but you'll find that you'll take with you this sense of power and serenity, this sense of calmness. You'll take it with you. And you'll also find, because I did this, you'll find that you will find thoughts in there, but they're not from outside. This is when I get the downloads, and I call them downloads, because they don't come this way. They're not from my head. They're not the weather. They come from that deep core. And something emerges, and it's a reality that I could not have thought of. Solutions happen. Solutions come from within because you're willing to give your attention to the core that is the mountain. It's been said that there are no money problems, there's only idea problems. There was also no mortgage problems, there was only idea problems. There was no family problems, there was only idea problems. There was no health problems, there was idea problems. I love it in the Old Testament. It says, my ideas are not your ideas and my ways are not your ways. But I'll tell you, God's ideas and God's ways are really cool. And when I become still enough, those could emerge. So out of the stillness came a healing. Out of that healing, things shifted. Because this is the deal. A mountain like Rainier creates its own weather. When you can become your own mountain, you create your own weather. You want it to be exciting, you're excited from within, people will get excited. You want to become optimistic, people will be optimistic because it'll come from within. You create your own weather. That's the practice. Let's practice. Let's take a deep breath. I'm not going to make you sit here for 10 minutes. But let's get a taste of it. I want you to think of your favorite mountain. It could even be Mount Sinai. Think of a mountain. And as you sit, imagine that you are that mountain. Imagine you are the mountain. Imagine. Allow yourself to really be pulled by the gravity into the earth as the mountain is pulled into the earth. Now thoughts will go by. Those are just the critters. Those are the birds flying. If your body starts to respond and you want to scratch or move or shift, those are just the critters crawling around, but they don't touch the mountain. Now notice the weather. It will come and go, the breeze will happen, the fog will emerge and dissipate, clouds will go by, but it does not touch the mountain. It does not touch the mountain. The core of you, the center of you, is the heart of the mountain. And it can let stuff happen. But you can remain at peace.
It is the peace that Jesus spoke of. It is a peace that does not make any sense. It's a peace that cannot be created or traveled to. It is a peace that does not come because somebody gives you what you want. It is a peace that passes understanding, and it's eternal, and it's solid, and it's real, and it's powerful, and it's who you are, and so it is.